Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the RLCS SSA podcast. Of course, this is the podcast where we talk about all things RLCS SSA. Today, as you can see at the bottom of my screen, I'm joined by Ckeno. Hello, Ckeno.
What's up, Drew? What's up, YouTube?
Of course, an ever regular on the channel. He's been on a few times now. But we are joined by a new face that not many people would have heard of. 0neTr1ck. Hello, 0neTr1ck.
What's up, YouTube? Hey, Drew.
Hello. So, 0neTr1ck, considering you're new around here, just give a quick introduction of yourself and just say who you are.
Okay, I'm a 15-year-old Rocket League player that plays for the team at the moment called Cape Flat Warriors. I'm teamed with Amogus and 0neTr1ck, and yeah, that's about all at the moment.
Fair enough. Without further ado, let's get straight into this because this is going to be a slightly longer episode, hopefully under 45 minutes, because Ckeno supposedly has load shedding. Okay, he wants to go to sleep.
You already know.
First off, we're going to start out with some retirement. So I'm going to ask Ckeno more of the questions here because he's definitely played against these players more than 0neTr1ck. Might have played them in ranked, but
Yeah, he doesn't find them in his 1300 lobbies.
Yo, I'm never
Shit,
taking that if
okay.
I'm you.
Sorry, 0neTr1ck.
First player is 5BS. So, Ckeno, can you talk us through a bit of 5BS? Because, of course, 5 top 8 is nothing to scoff at.
I mean, I don't really see why he retired. I mean, he's not a crazy player like one of the best players in the region. I think we all had him in our top 30 list. Maybe some people didn't, but he's still a pretty good player. Like, I'm sure he could definitely find a team that could contest for top 8. Like, Fusion, I'm sure they could have taken him instead of Teacher, or trying to think of other teams that like could take a better third. But yeah, he definitely could have found a better team or a decent team. I don't know the reasons behind his retirement. I think it's some personal reasons and also him. Okay, he said it was kind of behind struggling for a team, but I've talked to 5 years before, and he has kind of an ego, thinking that he's good enough for a. I remember he told me that he might retire if he doesn't find a top 4 team, which I just think is crazy. His team like struggling to make top 8s, like being a top 12 finisher, and him just wanting to jump to a top 4 team is kind of crazy because you can't really do that if you're not gonna prove that you're a good player, and he didn't really prove that at all. So you can't really have an ego and expect to get onto a high level team without having a high level performance.
I mean, that's very, very true. Very sad to see him go, but as you did say, maybe a little bit of ego there for teams, but 5 top 8s, nothing to scoff at for a career. The
Yeah.
next one is arguably bigger because of the amount of placements that they've had, and I'm going to read them off. There we go. 0 was on Digital Devils twice, Royalty, MTG, Red Crown, and SRZ. 4 top 8s, 6 top 4s, and 2 top 6s. Ckeno. So 0.
0, man. Last season, when the region was still, I mean, it is pretty bad still, but when it was a lot worse, he was on Royalty, and Eli was definitely the best player on that team. Or I guess Royalty or Digital Devils, they were called both names. Eli was definitely the best player on the team, but 0 wasn't that far behind. I think that he's pretty old, and he kind of stopped getting better, while everybody else got better. So this season, yeah, he got a top 4, some top 8s, but I don't want to say he was getting carried, but he was by far the worst on his team, and I'd even say he was kind of holding back his team.
I mean,
So I'm not gonna say like, I don't know how to put it. I'm not gonna say he should have retired, but if he did continue to play, he wouldn't have seen any results compared to what he used to see.
yeah, I would think that's probably one of the reasons he's retired. I think it was a perfect time for him because with these placements, you don't want to end on making just top 16s or top 12s. You want to you want to retire on a good streak, and I think his good streak has come to an end. So I think this is the perfect time for 0 to retire. I mean,
Yeah, and I don't think that he's like only retiring because of that. He is pretty old. Like I think he's like 24. So at some point, if you're unless you're like Snowy and actually making good money off of it, you can't spend hours a day scrimming and hours on your weekend playing. Like he probably has a job and would rather put his time somewhere else,
very true.
which I understand.
Very valid point. The third and final one is a friend of mine, and it is unconfirmed. So, Just Specs, also known as Specs, a ranked warrior who has 1 top 8 and 9 main events, played for Exotic Esports, Sheffield Utes, and is better known for his time on Astronic Esports. So, I am going to ask Ckeno, but I would like to say a few words first. This makes full sense to me. Specs doesn't really play the game as much as he used to, and also he hasn't made a top 8 since last season. First split. I don't know what your opinion on this is, Ckeno, but I'll hand it over to you.
What'd you say?
Specs.
Shit, my bad. I was writing something.
Oh, good.
I mean, Specs, yeah, he was definitely the best on his team. With Astronic, these past 2 splits, I think. Actually, they've made a lot of roster moves. They dropped Snoozy, and then they picked up Nuke, and then they dropped Nuke. And it's always been between, okay, who are we going to drop, Stredic or Nuke? But it's never been Specs. Specs is definitely the best on the team. I wouldn't say he's the carry, but he is the best. So it does suck to see him retire because ever since like I came to the scene, I remember I watched Specs in one of my first 6-man's games. I spectated it in rank A, and I saw that he was like really good. So I actually DM'd him asking him to team with me and Amogus, but he said he didn't want to, so we didn't team. But I always saw that like this guy's a really good player, and even like it's not like he's fallen off. He's continued and continued to get better. So I think that if he did continue to play, he could have a really like good career on some top 8 teams. But I know that he is I think like 20 years old, and just like with Zero, with age, you're just gonna find new interests and kind of fall out of Rocket League.
Yeah, 100%. Very well said. Hopefully this one does not come to fruition, because of course I've heard some whisperings that he's going to play this split and it will be his final, but that will come up a little bit later in the episode. The next topic is one that 0neTr1ck may know something about. It is an APAC GC3 moving to SSA. This will be a really quick segment because there's not really a lot to talk about. He's an APAC GC3 that moved to SSA. His name is Epsilon Sam. I don't know if either of you guys know him, do you?
No,
Nope.
I've only heard his name, but nothing else. I haven't heard how he plays or anything.
Okay, I will lead this bit then. It will take me no more than a minute. So, Epsilon Sam, APAC GC3, moved to SSA. Is currently on a team with Fimph and Lettuce. A team that you'll definitely hear about later because 0neTr1ck has been a big fan of that team for quite a while now. So, he moved to SSA, joined 6-mans. We didn't know his rank, and he did not sign up. So he must have been in there before. He had rank C, he didn't lose a single series. He had rank B, didn't really lose a series. Now he's rank B+, and he's finding it a little bit more difficult. So hopefully he finds his feet, and we get to see what an APAC GC3 gets to do in SSA. Of course, a very good player, but not really found his feet. I just thought it was a really nice topic to have in a little segue. If I think to what's next, I'm pretty sure it is the top 8 rosters in the region, because some have changed, some haven't. Feel free to skip ahead if you've already seen the Greybeard stream about this, but we're going to go into a little bit of depth about what we think of the roster changes, if they were good, if they were bad. First off,
Did you ever
Limitless.
do a stream on this?
He did. So
Limitless didn't make a roster change?
yes, they did. They removed...
I mean, sub.
Yeah, it's still a roster change.
Okay.
Still a roster change. What's your thoughts on the roster change? Anyone with sub, we're just going to go through very quickly.
I'm not gonna lie. Who is their sub? Is it still Nuke?
It's Nuke.
Okay, yeah, Nuke. Nuke's pretty good. He's a good pickup for a sub. Definitely probably the best sub in the region. So you could pick up from Limitless. Definitely a big upgrade from Chase. Definitely a big upgrade from Chase.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. But it does kind of beg the question, is there going to be another wave of players just subbing for blue tags?
I think it's always going to be like that.
Yeah. It's not a great thing, but 0neTr1ck, what's your thoughts on this roster?
Oh, I've had experience. I've actually played with Chase and Nuke in scrims as a trial for my team. And the difference in skill is actually, it's quite a lot, but I would say Nuke was a way better pickup than Chase because I've played with both of them. And Nuke is definitely a main event level player. And Chase, I haven't seen him very active in any six mans or something like that. And his skill isn't, and I would say like his knowledge about the game isn't close to Nuke. So I would say it was a good change for them.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Good points there. We're going to move straight on to the C2, who, of course, have only just picked up a sub. 0neTr1ck, well, what's your opinion on this sub? Because Physics, obviously a name that you are very familiar with.
Yeah, Physics. I've played with him for quite a while now. He's a very mechanical player, and I haven't seen him play threes much, but I think it was a reasonable choice to pick Physics as sub, and he's just like starting, not actually starting, but he's starting to go into the higher levels of ROCS now. So I think it's like a good way for him to see how the top levels are from a first person or second person point of view.
Fair enough. Ckeno?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously an upgrade from no sub. Physics is a pretty good player, so yeah, it's a good pickup.
Fair enough. I feel like I don't even need to say anything. We're going to move on to Orlando Pirates, which of course had one of the bigger roster changes this split. From Happy Meal, Cams, and Eliakim to Happy Meal, Cams, and Shadowhunter. Ckeno, you've played this new team and you've played the old team. What's different?
I mean, they're with Eli. I mean, the way they played was completely different. Like Shadow, this is the same roster as last season with Happy Meal and Chems, but instead of To Die For, they have Shadow. But Shadow, like, if you could pick the player that's not To Die For, that is the closest player to Die For, like in playstyle in this region, it would be Shadow. So they're trying to like replicate the way they played with Bravado because they saw so much success with that. So they're relying on Shadow to just go crazy mechanically and solo play their way to wins, which it can work sometimes, but I genuinely don't know if they were better with Eli or with Shadow. Um, uh, like we scrimmed them a few times and they might have beat us a bit or we went even. And I was like, oh, okay, like I don't think they've improved that much. But then I was thinking maybe it's like a Gen G story where they start out pretty slow and then over time they just become so good. Because like talent wise and individual wise, this team should be a clear top two in the region. But you just never know how the three players are gonna mesh together and how they're gonna work out. It'll be fun to see though for the first regional.
100%. I think this is probably my standout team with the roster changes. Of course, it has to be, and we're going to move on. Very sorry, 0neTr1ck, but I'll get you to talk about the next roster first because
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to hear Keno's opinion on it. So, WRG.
There is no roster change.
There is no roster change. It's the same roster. Is there anything you think that they're going to do this split, 0neTr1ck?
I mean, I see them going into definitely making main event and definitely making top 8. But I haven't seen them play much, but I think they can definitely reach into top 4. And top 2 is maybe reaching it a bit high, but I definitely think they can reach top 5, top 4, maybe around there.
Good prediction. I'm not going to ask for Keno's opinion because it's going to be very biased and very useless.
Top two every regional.
Same same roster. Let's move on. French class, which was previously 80k, so Werty Galaxy Wilu is now Werty Sweaty Wilu. This is a massive roster change. Ckeno, tell me.
We were just talking about Pirates, and you said you think that's like the biggest, best roster change. I think that this is for sure. This team, like Willu, probably the biggest grinder in the region. I'll see him every morning just grinding twos. That guy hard comes in twos, bro. He's different. Sweaty as well. Sweaty just hit SSL on 200 ping. He's like one of 5 players to ever do that. Werty, Wordy. He's wordy. But this team is really good. I definitely expect them to make a finals. This split. I think that they even could be in contention for the second best team in the region at the moment. I don't think they'll make wild card. They legit have to win, I think, 2 regionals, which is probably not going to happen. But I could definitely see these guys doing a lot of damage in regionals.
Fair enough. 0neTr1ck, do you agree, or do you think there's going to be an overhype of this French class roster?
No, I think I agree because I've heard many good words about Velu, and I've heard that he's a real grinder and he's improved a lot. And so I think that picking Sweaty also over Galaxy, I didn't think I think that's a good change because many people in this, I think Galaxy actually, and many people think that the Galaxy was almost like bringing down the team in some way. So I would say Sweaty was a good pickup, and I feel if they play well together, they can make a good appearance in this ROCS.
100%. Galaxy, by the way, doesn't have a home because he got caught doing something and can't play RCS.
Vaping.
Vaping, yeah.
Apix, another massive roster change. Lackstar original Shadow, Lackstar original Lycan. Basically a straight swap with Orlando Pirates. We'll talk about it briefly, but I don't think this roster is really meshing well together from what I've heard so far, and I don't think they're really gonna do anything too crazy. Ckeno, what do you agree with that, or?
I think that I genuinely do think that these guys are better with Eli, because like Lackstar and Original are like the 2 most unmechanical players in the region. So they just heavily relied on Shadow to like kind of like Pirates are doing, but to a way greater extent. And whenever Shadow would not do what they want him to do, we would just win and they would lose. But with Eli, they're like playing as a team, and they're playing a lot better than they were with Shadow. I don't think they're gonna like make any top 4s, top 2s, but I still think these guys will be a consistent top 8 team.
Fair enough.
Eli's just a really good fundamental player.
Eli comes in, does his thing, and gives Apix a good standing. We're going to move on very quickly to a Red Crown. So they've only added a sub. So we will... should we jump over these, or do you think we should talk about them?
Yeah, let's talk about it real quick.
Yeah.
I think Red Crown would... They'll still be a top 8 team, but I've said this to Tristan countless times. Snow even said it on one of his interviews. Individually, these guys should be like a top 4 team in the region. Tristan, one of the most mechanical players. Same with Declan. Daps has been almost on the same levels as Willu with grinding. Like I just see him online all the time, man. Individually, these guys are so good. But as a team, they just like don't play as well as I think they should. I don't know if they just aren't getting proper coaching, or also these guys trolled in scrims, which maybe if they stopped trolling in scrims, they'd maybe find some better team play. But I still think they'll be top 8, but they still haven't reached the potential that I think that they can be at.
I mean, yeah, I think it does boil down to their practice not being taken seriously. But 0neTr1ck, what's your opinions on this roster? Because of course they've added Boy. I think that makes the roster a little bit more stable. But what do you think they can achieve?
I think I agree with Ckeno on that they're all very mechanical players. You've seen Tristan trying to freestyle, or I've heard about his freestyling, so I would guess he has good mechanics, and I've seen and played against Declan, so I've seen his mechanics firsthand. And Boy, fair enough, I've actually watched many of his games when he used to play for, I think it was Ice he used to play for. I'm not pretty sure, but
Yeah,
I've watched, I watched these games, and I think he's quite a decent player, and I think it's a reasonable decision to pick him up for sub. So it definitely makes the team more stable. But yeah, that's all I have to say about.
It's fair enough. Good points. Very well spoken. Of course, let me say this. This is not the 8th seed team, okay? The 8th seed team is Omnius, but that's boring. They didn't make a top 8 last split, so we chose Nkosi Ballers. So Snoozy, Balam, Risen is now Snoozy, Risen, and Ram Ranch.
Wait, what happened with Omnius? Why didn't you?
Because they didn't make a top 8 in the previous 3 regionals, is why I didn't include them.
Okay.
So Snoozy, Balam, Risen to Snoozy, Risen, and Ram. Definitely an improvement from my side. I think there's just a very obvious improvement. And I think that's all I really have to say. Anything you guys have to say?
No.
0neTr1ck?
I mean, it's definitely an improvement. Like, I think Balam, if he took it seriously, like, Balam is definitely one of the players with the highest potential. Like, that guy hardly plays the game, and he's still a really, really good player. But he doesn't play the game. He doesn't scrim. So it was just tough for his teammates because they wanted to grind, but they really couldn't grind as a team. So that's why they made the decision to drop him. And picking up Ram is kind of the opposite. Ram is a grinder. You should see the amount of twos games that guy plays in a season. Like, it's crazy. So I definitely think these guys will be a consistent top 8 team.
Fair enough. Anything to add, 0neTr1ck?
No, I think Ckeno's mentioned everything I was thinking about. But yeah, I would say that I've heard that Bellum isn't really serious and doesn't play the game a lot, so I think it's a good roster change.
Fair point, fair point. We're going to move on. I completely forgot what the next segment was, so I will be reading it as it happens. So, the Astronic situation. You guys can take the back burner here, unless you've heard about it. Have any of you heard about it?
I have. Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Both of you.
Oh, yeah, I have.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
I'll go through this in a minute and a half, maybe. The Astronic situation. So, Astronic currently aren't playing in this first regional. They made a roster change far too late, which was Nuke out, of course, because he's gone sub for Limitless, and they picked up Balam. So Balam would be their new third. Specs may play, which is why he's unconfirmed retired. They didn't sign up. They asked Noob Slice to put them in, and it doesn't look like on start that they are involved at all. So we might not see Astronic in the first regional at all, which is, of course, not good for the org, not good for the players. Feel a bit for Stratic and Balam and Specs. But what can you do if you don't sign up? It's your own fault. Let's move on. So, this next segment, I want to give the floor to these guys because there's obviously some teams to look out for. I'll mention a few so you guys can't mention them and be completely boring. Cosmico. My mind's gone blank. I didn't make notes about this. But I'll leave it up to you guys. You can't mention Cosmico because that's a team that we'll talk about in a minute. Any teams, Ckeno?
I had 4 teams and one of them was Cosmico, but I'll talk about the other 3. Well, my first one, it's a team called Valkyrie Knights.
Yep.
It's Banana Cat, Vision, and Risque. Banana Cat's always been like a pretty underrated player. People like realized he was good in after that Apex Cup tourney when he like subbed in for the rank B and he popped off. Vision he's my boy. He's the Mozambican player, so I always want to see him succeed. But he actually did surprise me. I found him in a ranked game maybe a few weeks ago, and he was playing really well. So he can definitely do well on this team. And their third man is Risque. Risque is like kind of the one I don't know about because obviously he's a pretty good ones player, but like he's the onesiest ones player ever. He plays ones like it's ones. Nobody does that, bro. He just stays grounded the whole time, tries to flick, tries to bump you. So I don't know how this guy's gonna play in threes, but excited to see it, I guess.
I'm sure Risque's a name that's going to come up soon as well when we talk about something else. But continue.
He also has like the whole community right in his meat. My other teams were, well, obviously Cosmico. I don't know if you'd consider this underrated. I had Nkosi there just because I don't think they're going to be considered a bubble team anymore.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to be considered like a solid top 8 team with their pickup with Ram. And my fourth team is Bird. Like, they've always been not that good, but they've had Mati on their team this whole time because their brain dead coach some reason thinks, oh, I mean, I like Mati. He's a nice guy. I've had messages with him, but you shouldn't just team with someone because they're nice. You gotta like find the best team that you possibly can. I think like Fish or Bird, now they're called Bird, has kind of like come to their senses, and they've dropped their worst player, who is Mati, and they've picked up Zeph, who Zeph is like actually pretty decent. I can see this team doing well.
How well? Because I've seen some crazy people say top 8. I was
No, no,
more,
no,
I
no,
was more
no.
thinking top 12.
Yeah, top 12 max.
Good points. Good points. Is that your final team?
Yep.
0neTr1ck, moving over to you. Is there any teams to look out for you?
I think Fusion isn't like top 4, top like 8, right?
No.
At the moment.
No, they're not.
So this is, I wouldn't say that to look necessarily to look out for now, but I think if they had picked up someone else rather than Teacher, rather like Ckeno said, rather like 5BS or something like that, I think they would have been one of the teams to look out for because Defunct has a lot of potential as a player. Your Pego is also a very decent player, and if they had someone like 5BS, I think they could have like moved up more if like rather than Teach in the team.
Fair
And
enough.
then also like Kenna mentioned, I would also say Valkyrie Knights because I've also played scrims with Vision, and I've played against Eclipse as well, and they're both very decent players, both in 2s and in 3s, and they have very good mechanics. And then the last team I want to mention is actually Fatality, which on the roster is Lettuce, Rainy, and Fumf, which you mentioned, the APAC GC3 coming from, where's he come from again?
He's just come from APAC. I don't know the country.
Okay, so I would say Fumf. I don't think anybody really knows of him because he hasn't made any appearances in ROCs. But I've seen him starting to grind the game, and I've seen him improve a lot. So I think if you give him, I would say 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 months, and that would be a team to look out for as well as Lettuce and Rainy. If he motivates them both of them to play as much as him, I think they could become a decent team to look out for.
Very, very true. On this bit,
Yeah, cut that from the video, curious.
I would like to bring up a team that one of the hosts of today, or guests, should I say, is in. So, Cape Flat Warriors, Ckeno, a team of 0neTr1ck, Amogus, and 0neTr1ck. Amogus, a name that you are all too familiar for. You got one of your top 8s with him. What do you think that team's going to do?
I actually don't know. I think that their peak would be making main event. I don't think that they'll have any shot of making top 12 or anything like that. But making main event is not something to like look down on. The region is getting so much more competitive, and players and teams are just getting so much better. So yeah, I could see them making main event a few times if they're peaking.
Fair enough. And 0neTr1ck, without explaining yourself, give me the placement exactly. Where do you think you're gonna place this split?
Like, you mean like main event or exact position?
Let's say exact position. So top 16, top 24, top 18.
I would say top 16.
Fair enough. Let's move swiftly on. Up and coming players. So this is the segment where we're going to be talking about up and coming players. Just to mention one, just to kick off the conversation, it's got to be Guns. Of course, it has to be Guns. The man that has just come out of the blue and surprised everyone, really. Now finds himself on Cosmico, which is a team I banished us from talking about because I feel like everyone's talked about them. But Guns, as a player himself, Ckeno, please take it away.
Yeah, Guns is pretty good. Like he does have that surprise factor where this guy legit came out of nowhere. Like I think I was one of the first people actually like to notice him because I was on a alt and I was playing this guy in ones and I'm like I think he was like keeping close games with me and I'm like, damn bro, this guy's good. So I started talking to him and I'm like, oh, like what are you in six mans? And he told me he's rank B. I'm like, there's no way this guy's rank B. Like he's really good. And like since then he's obviously gone up because people recognized him and he started playing well. Now he's all the way up in rank X. Um, he definitely is next up. I think he's pretty good in threes. That whole team is, but I'd actually say Duklaz is more of a up next player. I think that he's the star of that team, just the overall most consistent player. Um, he's really good in everything, ones, twos, and threes. So I think that Cosmico team will have a lot of success. I don't think they'll have top 8 success or anything, but having two up and coming players um, is looking really good for them.
Fair enough. Fair enough. 0neTr1ck, is there any players that you want to bring up for up and coming?
I would also to add on to Guns is I didn't meet him long after he like came out of the blue, and when he started playing, I think when I met him, he had about I think 600 or 700 hours in the game, and that's not a lot comparing to like other pro players in SSA like Snowy and to dive on them. And he was rank B at the time that I met him, and I think in the time span of 3 months, he moved up from rank B straight up to rank X. Well, obviously went to rank A to rank X, but it was in a very quick time. And I think he's like improved a lot. So I think he is one of the up and coming talents, and Douglas as well, as Ckeno mentioned. And then for another player, at the moment, I would say, as Ckeno mentioned in Valkyrie Knights, is Vision. I think also is one of the up and coming players to look out for, because I don't know much about his ROCS appearances, but I've played scrims and ranked matches with Vision, and he's a very solid player with mechanics. And in the time that I played ranked and the time that I played scrims with him, it was, I think the difference between the time was about a month, and in that time he has improved quite a lot. So I think he's someone to look out for.
Maybe a new Mozambique monster when Ckeno
He's
jumps
gonna take
ship.
my place.
He's going to jump ship back to America and he's going to take Ckeno's place. I want to bring up two more names very quickly, and then I'll bring up an extra name just for a bit of fun. So two names. I want both of these to go at the exact same time. Risque and Dilly. Of course, Risque of Valkyrie Knights. So maybe two up-and-coming players on Valkyrie Knights as well. And Dilly on Omnius, teamed with Olympic and Siphon, with Christian W as sub. Ckeno, both those players. Of course, you've probably had a lot more experience with them. What's your opinions?
Yeah, Risque definitely could be good. I think he kind of plays a bit too much ones. Like I said earlier, his whole play style is around ones. Just he stays grounded and doesn't really do anything but flicks and bumps. So I don't know how he's gonna do in RLCS, but obviously him like playing in a team environment, maybe even getting coaching, it's gonna make him a better player. So I could definitely see him as an up and coming player. And then Dilly, like I've been thinking about this recently. I was like, why would Olympic choose like Dilly, an unproven player that like really nobody even rates, over Christian W, who's been in the scene for a long time? And bro, I know why. Olympic thinks he's apparently Jack. He thinks Dilly is chronic. No, bro, he's not. I mean, Dilly is all right. I actually think that Dilly's a really like solid mechanical player on his day. Like that guy's peaked on me in twos sometimes. But he like he's like Aqua when Aqua was on Koi or Rogue. He like is causing or creating a lot of plays and stuff, but he's the reason they get scored on 90% of the time. He doesn't have great rotations. He overcommits. He goes for things he shouldn't. And I think that Omnius do have a really good coach who could help him out. So I could see this team succeeding if they can get Dilly to figure out what he's doing. Um, but yeah, I'd still say he is one of the up and coming players.
I mean, for sure, I think that coaching element is going to be a massive factor in it. 0neTr1ck, anything to say about those two players?
I don't know much about Risque because I haven't seen him play a lot, but regarding what Ckeno said, I think he could be someone to look out for. And then the other one mentioned, wait, who was the other one mentioned
Dilly.
again?
Dilly.
Dilly. Okay, the one time I played a six-man against Dilly, and I was like, yo, this guy was like bad. And then I didn't see him for a while, like about a month or something around that time span. And then he came back and I played a six-man against him. I thought that now this was going to be a free win because I'm playing against Dilly. But when we started that game, I think he was way better than he was a month ago. And I was like, yo, this guy improved really quickly. I even asked him what he did to improve that quick. So if he continues improving at that pace, and like Keno said, they have a good coach in Omnius. If the coach also helps him out, I think uh, he could be a good player to look out for.
I mean, definitely. And I'm gonna name one more name because he's an absolute grinder. Fimp, guys. How have we not talked about Fimp?
How have we talked about Fimp?
How have we? He's a great player, great up and coming player. Let's move on.
No, wait. Before we move on, I want to talk about 0neTr1ck. I don't know how we overlooked him. 0neTr1ck
Really?
is, yeah.
Another reunionese player maybe coming through. Maybe a new Panda, new
He's
Willu.
pretty good at twos. Like a lot of these up and coming players, you just see them like one day you'll find them in your twos games. And you'll be like, okay, this guy's pretty good. It was like the same with Dilly, Zyro, these players that have become somewhat decent. So I could see 0neTr1ck if he grinds and takes it seriously, then I could definitely see him becoming a pretty good player in the region.
I have no clue about 0neTr1ck. I just know he's got a good team around him, and hopefully they can put his arm around him and help him grow. Let's move on. I think this is the final topic. Do we think, after these roster changes, top 8 is going to be a locked thing? Do we think there's going to be a set top 8, or do we think there's going to be a supposed bubble scene, as I always used to put it, that would interchange? Do we think there's any teams that are around that level?
Hear me out. Someone save this clip, because I'm gonna look so smart when I'm right. All 3 regionals this split is gonna be the same 8 teams every regional. And those teams is Limitless, Nixa, Pirates, WRG, French Class, Nkosi, Apex, and Red Crown. I think that these 8 teams are just so far ahead of the rest that I can't see them losing to any of the other teams. I guess there could be some situations where these like we lose to each other, and that like brings one kind of Mickey team into top 8. But these are by far the best 8 teams in the region, and I can't see any teams, at least this season, overtaking them.
See, but my question to you on that is, do you think the reason those teams are so far ahead is because they don't constantly change rosters? So they're a set roster and they are working together daily. Do you think that is one of the main factors towards it? Because that's what instantly popped into my head.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a big reason for it, because all these bubble teams, they have not even a split. Like they can have a bad regional. I'm LFT, and you see that in every region. You see that in EU bubble teams. Like, oh, my team lost a scrim. I'm gonna go LFT. So I think that that's a bad mentality to have as a player. Stick with a team at least for a split, and see how you do. And if it's just terrible, then sure, go LFT. But I genuinely think that there's some teams, like look at Red Crown. They've been together for so long, even since before they were considered anywhere near a top 8 team, and now they're a consistent top 8 team. So I definitely think that sticking together, and I'm not like Red Crown haven't perfected their playstyle, but they've definitely made it a lot better than it used to be, and it's definitely benefited them.
I mean, definitely. 0neTr1ck. Do you think there's any teams that could break that top 8 mold, or do you think, like Ckeno, it's going to be the same teams?
I think to extent I agree with Ckeno, but if there is a way that there's a team making it past those teams, maybe if that team throws on that day or something, I would think it would be like maybe Cosmico Esports, because we've seen Guns now as a rising player in the community, and as well as Darkless. So maybe even more of a rising player than Guns. So I think if there's anyone breaking the barrier of top 8, I think it would be them. But I don't see anyone else going into the top 8 and changing it as it currently is.
I mean, fair enough. I kind of agree with Ckeno. I think there might be one regional where Red Crown fall out, but apart from that, I don't know. I really don't look at any of the new teams and think they're going to challenge the like of Apex or Red Crown. I just don't see it, and I don't really understand why that is. I could always ponder and I could take stabs towards it, but there is a reason that these teams are objectively better than other teams, and I think until the other teams figure that out, we will have a consistent top 8.
Yeah, I think that right now in SSA, the best of the best, like these top 8 teams, are like the best skill that SSA's ever seen. Like we've developed a lot since last year, but I think that SSA has like really bad depth right now. We're talking about up and coming bubble players, up and coming bubble teams, like, but we all know none of these bubble teams are gonna be able to compete with these top 8 teams. I mean, they can compete with them, but I don't think any of us have them beating them.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know why it's like this. Like in EU or NA, you'll have like Koi, a team that's hardly making main event, just beat. Who did they beat? They beat Optic. I guess that's in a different mode, but there's a lot of upsets and in SSA. Part of the reason it's boring to watch is just there's hardly any upsets. You see Nixa versus Apex, who's winning that? Oh, Nixa. Or Limitless versus Pirates. Okay, it's gonna be Limitless. So it's kind of makes it boring. And hopefully in the future there will be more depth. But as of right now, there's just a locked in top few teams.
I mean, yeah, I fully agree. We also see that in other regions like APAC and OCE.
Yeah,
but
in minor regions.
I'm really hoping that it does change soon. And unless any of you guys have anything else to add, that is the end of today's episode. Anything, guys?
I'd like to add something small. I just want to add a quick category that'll be small, and it's teams that have gone to shit. And
Ooh.
I only have one team nominated for this category, and I'm gonna have to put Fusion there. Like, how are you gonna pick up Teacher? Who is that? Like, these guys went from being a team that could contest for top 8. I haven't scrimmed them or anything yet because Yopego like blacklisted us. But the only time I ever heard of Teacher was in what's it called, high school league, and obviously he's on the best team there, but he has Blade on his team. I definitely think if these guys had 5BS, they could be definitely one of those teams that is contesting for top 8. But with Teacher, bro, I don't know. I don't know what they see in him. Maybe it's something that I'm not seeing, but I genuinely don't think that they're gonna have any success with this roster.
I mean, I don't think there's any team that's really like hit the fan. Honestly, I can see your argument for the Fusion, but end of the day,
I think that Yopego's hit the fan. Like him going, I remember that guy saying he hates Casper, he hates Defunct for what happened to them on DNMK, and he's so down bad that he's going to team with a guy that he used to hate, and now they're apparently friends again because they're on the same team. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I don't think he had many other options, and the bros love him. So of course they're gonna put him back on his roster, and I, I'll keep that private. I'm not gonna say something that I don't think I should say.
Say it.
One of the reasons 5BS retired was because he didn't want to play with Yopego.
Yeah, I mean, who would want to play with Yopego? I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, the bros probably aren't gonna watch this, and if they do, they'll probably dislike me even more. I don't think having people like that in the scene is good. Like old people, I don't know, man. Like I love Greybeard and all, but Greybeard running the one stuff isn't ideal because there's just people like that know more, like how the game works, how to like run things. Like I swear these bros just they hate on younger people because apparently they don't know what they're doing and they can't run anything. But I don't know. You look anywhere else, you're not gonna have grown men trying to make teams and stuff. It's just weird.
See, I'm not gonna agree or disagree. I'm gonna sit on the fence. I have no real opinion on this.
I think that they're all good people. They're all just like I don't even know how to explain what I think about it. They all dislike me because it's like gravy. I'll like trash talk people, and they'll take it way too seriously. They'll think that I genuinely have some type of hatred for them, which I really don't. I think that they take things way too seriously.
It is what it is. 0neTr1ck, is there anything you want to add?
I think I agree.
Drew, you should probably
with
cut all
Ckeno.
that out. That has nothing to do with the topic.
It doesn't matter. It's staying in.
All right, cool.
All right, all right, boys. Thank you, 0neTr1ck, and thank you, Ckeno, for coming on.
Oh yeah.
Love you, Drew. The moral of
Love
that
you
whole
too.
topic was Fusion is a Finnish team.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for watching and or listening. I spent about 20 minutes on this PowerPoint, so please write in the comments how good my PowerPoint was.
I do spend 20 minutes on that.
Shut the fuck up. All right. Cheers, boys. See you in a bit.